Hello and welcome to the Bel-E and Scratch podcast. I'm your host, Bel-E.
And I am your co-host, Scratch.
And today on the podcast, it is a very auspicious occasion. Because even though this is like a little fledgling podcast, we decided, hey, why not do an entire episode dedicated to the movie The Fifth Element?
Because we're outlaws.
Indeed. Definitely outlaws. That's why we did it on the fifth podcast.
How cliche.
And coincidental.
Sure.
So today we're going to be talking about entirely the Fifth Element and nothing but the Fifth Element. So strap you in. Strap yourselves in, folks. I don't know why I butchered that phrase earlier, but this is what we're going to do. So,
the key word is strap.
oh yeah. So, Mr. Best Sci-Fi Movie in the past 50 years, McGee.
Woo!
Hey, that's what it says on my business card.
Your business card says Fifth Element was the top 5 best sci-fi movies of the past 50 decades. Or the past 5 decades, whatever.
5 decades, 50 years, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a visionary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ahead of my time.
Oh, yeah. So where do you stand on the Fifth Element?
I love the Fifth Element. It overwhelmed me when I first saw it. It isn't obviously as far as works of any kind of creative media. The Fifth Element is right up there. It creates an entire world. Not just, well, you know, the story's good. The acting is better than average. There's just the right amount of camp dropped in there. It's one of the few features that makes me sad that movies are going to go away. And here's why. Because you could go to a place that was away from where you were familiar, your home, where you stay, where you sleep, and you could walk into this place that is not yours, that you may be slightly familiar with, but it's not where you would, it's not your place. So you get to go in there and you go through a series of doors.
You mean a theater?
Yeah, in the theater. Tolerate a little more than your ability to handle awareness of popcorn and burnt fake butter. And you could disappear. Escapism, which is what all creative media is seeking. Fifth Element just allows you to do it better.
Mm-hmm.
Good story, everything fits, music, it just allows you to dissolve into a world, and for however long the event lasts, hopefully an hour and a half to 2 hours, you could just disappear. You could get engulfed in the story, forget about everything that's beyond those 2 doors that lead into the theater. You could excuse me, you could lose yourself, all the problems in the world. You could put them away, put them in your pocket for a good hour and a half, 2 hours, and that's what you wanted to do when you go to the movies. And Fifth Element definitely not only qualifies but wins. It wins. The characterizations are wonderful. Everybody, it's so interesting because, like I said, there's just the right amount of camp in it. It looks like the characters are having fun. That to me is one of the hallmarks of a good movie, where you can tell that the actors, those folks that are participating, are having fun, and they look like they're having fun. And the Fifth Element, Bruce Willis does a masterful job of being an asshole. Not that he knows anything about that. And everybody just joins in and does well. Mila.
She's I should have Googled the cast before we started this. I'm gonna do that right now. I've heard a lot
She's
of
Lilu.
yeah, she's Lilu. She's like
It's my Resident Evil chick.
yeah, it's the Resident Evil lady, which
Was married to the director.
yeah, and like I told you, it was the Resident Evil movies.
Resident Evil.
Yeah, the Resident Evil movies was essentially a showcase for his for the director to just show off his wife, and I'm like, I don't blame you for doing that. It's just kind of annoying. Mila Jovovich. Ah, Christ, what is it?
Well, it looks like Jovovich.
Jovovich.
But I think they might have a more H sound on that V.
Possibly.
Jehovovich. Ooh, Jehovah. Hadn't caught that before.
Jovovich, maybe.
Hovovich.
I don't know. Yeah, it's got Bruce Willis in it. Mila. Gary Oldman is the villain.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman.
If there's a better villain than Gary Oldman, I don't know who it is.
Dude, if there's like a better character actor than Gary Oldman, I want to know who that person is.
I love, he's so intellectual. I love him. Plus, when they talk to him about the movie, or they show his character, he's like, this and that and everything. And then when they interview him in public, he's like, the other day, I was burning up again. I was having a good time, and it just throws you off.
It's like a little bit. It's like three levels of education above when he did Sid and Nancy, which is a movie I have yet to see, but we're gonna have to get on that later.
We're gonna have to wait on that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait on that.
Sid and Nancy, great movie.
I've yet to see it, and I'm going to have to see it for that episode.
Yes, Gary Oldman. Yeah. When he shook the world, that was the role that announced that he has arrived. Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah, he's just a friggin' chameleon.
He's a force.
He's a force. He's a chameleon.
Absolutely.
Like every single... I know we probably have mentioned this numerous times in the past, and some of you might be sick of hearing it.
Yeah, sure, maybe.
But yeah, there's some things he does. I don't know it's him until I'm reading the credits. Let's see, the Batman movies. I didn't know he was Commissioner Gordon. I knew who he was in The Professional, which we're gonna have to dedicate an entire episode to that.
Yes, we are.
Jesus, is there not a?
You know the guy that directed the Fifth Element, didn't he?
What?
The guy that directed? No.
Yeah. Luke. Luke. Hang on.
What did he? What else did he do?
God.
Luke Besson.
Yeah, Besson. I'm trying not to butcher. Luke Besson. I'm not trying to butcher this guy's name because he's French. He did. I don't know if he was the one.
Yeah.
Wait, did he direct The Fifth Element?
Yes, he did.
Oh my God! Or excuse me, it's not The Fifth Element. The Professional.
Yeah, Leon.
Oh my God!
The Professional.
Oh my God!
And you can see the element. You can see some. You can see some very similar elements.
I mean, it's like we said in the past. Every director has their hallmarks. Has their style. Yeah, their style. Their watermarks. And we're trying not to get off topic, but the Fifth Element. Yeah, just
if you want a good time and just not. And not think about
the world outside.
Because see, the thing about it is the way that the Fifth Element is structured. It's structured in a way that it is so believable and possible. There is a part of you, part of your mind that accepts this is a plausible reality. That is, to me, why. One of the reasons that why Fifth Element is such a great film. It's the setting, the story, the character interaction. It is a is a plausible story.
Very simple story.
Very simple story. It's the standard, actually. But the thing about it is I mean, The Fifth Element is one of those movies that what you see you could justifiably rationalize as being either something that you see one day during your lifetime, and it's something that if you don't see in your lifetime, you could arguably accept that it is something that could happen one day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a great film because of that.
I mean, that's technically what the key draw is for science fiction in general, is the fact that this might be the future. I may not live to see it, but
Right.
all of this makes total sense, because why wouldn't we have gotten to this point?
I mean, you can enjoy a movie like Star Wars,
You
but
can.
there is a distant.
I mean, they open it right up with long. God, what is the first thing?
An Imperial cruiser.
No. It's like the first. It's like the first words that are on screen.
What is that? Prequel?
No. Not the prequels. The first thing they pop onto the screen before you see any of the movies. A long time ago in a galaxy far away.
That's there's a very interesting story why that's there.
Yes, there is.
Yes, there is.
Hang on, but
we'll have to deal with that at another time.
Yeah, this is the Fifth Element episode. We're not really talking about the Fifth Element too much. This is the prelude, I guess. I don't know.
Prelude.
Prologue.
Prologue.
Woo! We don't know what we're doing. We're smart. We know what we're doing.
My kingdom for a prologue.
Mm-hmm. So... So that's just the deal with science fiction in general, is the whole allure of, things that in this day and age are inconveniences, if not just impossibilities in the future, is like, oh, someone actually thought of that and fixed it, like faster than like travel, because apparently that was a need that everyone wanted. Flying cars, and like Back to the Future. I mean, and Fifth Element too, but yes, Back to the Future.
Oh, it has everything. I mean, it isn't just that. I mean, there are in a lot of science fiction, especially Fifth Element is definitely European. It's definitely leaning in that direction of United Kingdom or British style science fiction, which has its own style.
Well, the director was French.
He was French. I'm pretty sure they shot. I don't think France is known for its.
Actually, the Valerian movie.
Well,
that comic series that had been running in the 60s in France. I'm not an expert on that particular, but that's a good example of French sci-fi.
Sure, but it's not it. British sci-fi movies, just like the television series, of course, everybody would be most familiar with, would be Doctor Who, of course. That's going to get its own series.
That's going to get its own episode.
Go Tom Baker. British sci-fi has a distinct... There is a creepiness... I don't know exactly why.
Creepiness,
there
dry
is a creepiness
humor.
To
some folk know Red Dwarf.
That Red Dwarf is good.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
which is so laughable and logical at the same time. It's
that's going to get its own episode.
Sure.
I mean, I got the books.
But even so far as the television series, take the classic television series of sci-fi that most of us graybeards are familiar with. You have the U.S. production of Battlestar Galactica, and you have the British television series Space 1999 that came out around the same time. Both wonderfully done, production values tremendous. But there is something unsettling, even though you're sitting there. There's a lot of action in the U.S. stuff. Most British sci-fi, they have a throwback to those dramatic type. There's a little more drama than guns blazing.
Oh no, it's almost like they have an entire, a millennia's worth of development of culture, and they have an entire international figure of a playwright.
Shakespeare?
Yeah, well, not he's like the main one, but just in general, they've had it 1,000 years to develop their own culture.
Oh
their
yeah,
own
well they probably all
style.
take freaking theater in kindergarten
Mm-hmm.
because of Shakespeare.
And not only that, but for some reason, British, well, European horror, but British especially, mostly because we're more familiar with British sci-fi, just British in general stuff.
Because that's what gets played in this country.
Because that's what gets played in this country.
And plus, the stuff from Italy and every now and then from France can get well, I'm not going to say they get out of bounds, but their content can go a little further than the American. North American.
North American.
North American. Oh, that's good. That's what we're going to say now. North America.
Yeah. Canada's in there too.
Canada's in there too. America's hat. And
hey, don't you insult Wayne. End of the laneway. Don't come up the property.
That's right.
Anyway.
But yeah, I mean,
British media has a certain level of wit to it. That is definite. That is a definite most talked about talking point. What people don't seem to talk about a lot, in my opinion, in the circles I run in, they don't seem to talk about how British media also has the tendency, not just for the wit, but also for tension. Yes. Not just dramatic tension, but also like horror tension.
That's interesting how you bring that up, because they have I would say, now that you mention that, there's a possibility, it's something to think about, that British sci-fi is great on the setup, the building tension to the climax,
which The Fifth Element does.
Which it does. That might be why it's really one of the perfect movies, because it has a great build up to the climax, and then it has a great climax.
Yeah.
I would say that American sci-fi
Let's
delivers.
just blow everything up.
Yeah.
Which there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. It delivers a big old punch.
Yeah, it's more typically American media and American sci-fi. It's a little bit more swashbuckling, which there's nothing wrong with that. There is not.
Yeah. I mean, you can fall asleep for 15 minutes during an American sci-fi action movie.
Yeah, and you
and
wake
up and there's like you didn't miss anything because
like,
you know the storyline.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they're still shooting at each other? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go back to sleep for another 5 minutes.
Did he reload?
Did he reload?
And the British stuff is, if you miss about 15 minutes in the middle, you're lost. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah, you don't know what's going on. Kind of like Life Force, but that's going to get its own episode.
Don't start.
I know. I still have not seen all of that to completion, but we'll get into that later.
Oh yes, we have to.
Yeah, I'm stuck on I'm a horror movie junkie, in case anyone hadn't figured it out. But The Fifth Element.
The Fifth Element.
I think we need to stop. I think we actually need to start talking about this before people get mad.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. This is what we're gonna do, or at least this is what I'm gonna do. We're going to talk about the plot and the elements that make it awesome up until a certain point. We're going to say, there's like a spoiler warning at some point, and then we're going to continue past that.
Yes.
In which case, you could just stop watching the episode, I guess, if you want.
Sure.
I don't know why, because, the movie came out in 97, and why you hadn't watched it already, I don't know what to tell you.
We're going to tell you everything, but then again, you're going to understand nothing.
Exactly. And
Go see it.
Yeah, and for the people who hate The Fifth Element, well, I don't know what to tell you, but you need to,
What?
For the people who don't like The Fifth Element, the only thing I can tell you is you need to start developing that frontal cortex of your brain. And then you need to develop that frontal cortex so I can go in with a nice shiny pen and stab you in it.
Medulla oblongata.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's at the rear base. But anyway.
Yeah. I'm trying to make a lobotomy joke.
Yeah. Hammer.
It's hammer time.
Ice
Chink.
Chink.
Anyway. That's messed up.
Yeah, it is. Anyway.
The beginning of The Fifth Element
is wonderful.
I don't remember what happens.
It's where this old man's in a
pyramid?
A pyramid-ish type structure. I'm assuming in Egypt.
Or somewhere where there's a desert.
Somewhere.
Just pick some random desert on the planet. I think they do tell you, but I don't remember.
And he is deciphering some hieroglyphics, and he discovers the plot or the storyline for Fifth Element. There is a
there's like some kind of ball of death in space.
There is a there is a device.
There is a device.
I guess a plot device would be better if you don't want to give away too much. There is a plot device that is discovered by him deciphering the hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
And it's the standard old man British archaeology stereotype for those of you who are in my age range and remember such things.
What, like Sean Connery and Indiana Jones?
No. I mean, there was this, when I was a kid, there was this when they found King Tut's tomb. So there is this big...
there was this big boon of old men archaeologists.
Of old British archaeologists. I mean, that's kind of the stereotypical explorer, that sort of thing. But
basically, it's basically this old priest dude and like this younger dude who I think is Luke Perry.
It's Luke Perry,
which I'm not saying
that is the only part. That is the only element of the Fifth Element that is just a little off kilter. I wish they had not put him in that role.
Well, here's the thing.
I mean, he
does a good job.
He does a good job, but it just throws you off because when you see, because you're getting into the story, and then all of a sudden the first thing it
pretty
pops,
boy.
all of a sudden the first thing it pops into your head is like, hey, is that Luke Perry?
Yeah.
That kind of throws you out of the that kind of and unfortunately it's very short lived.
It's basically a cameo.
It's a cameo, and if I was to say, I don't think it really takes away from the movie.
It's just kind of one of those, what the heck is that?
That's kind of what, exactly.
It's just a cameo. He's not in it for too long.
It breaks you from what you're dropping into.
Yeah. From
the mental picture that you're creating, the escapism that you are embracing, and then all of a sudden there's fucking Luke Perry and you're like, what?
Well, I guess by that logic you could also technically say the same thing for Bruce Willis's character, except he fits.
He does. I mean, you don't because first of all, you know who Bruce Willis is.
Yes.
All right.
You do.
You do. And his presentation, the hook is the old British archaeologist, the gray beard, and the issue in the pyramid. Basically, what happens is there is a device, so to speak, in this pyramid-ish structure that the archaeologist discovers what it is, and then all of a sudden there is an arrival of
grand proportions
of beings not of this reality and planet to retrieve the device that the British archaeologist has just discovered.
Now, mind you, this British archaeologist is I remember he's also like a priest of this particular order who's working with this species.
There was the archaeologist and there was the artist.
Then there's a Luke Perry.
And there's Luke Perry, who actually is the person that triggers the tension in the hook. The very beginning of the movie.
I can't remember. Did the aliens shoot Luke Perry or like?
No.
Okay, because I don't remember.
They were non-violent. They had no weapons.
Okay, I just don't remember what happened. It's like I remember
he aliens shot at them.
Oh yeah.
An old World War II German Luger, which I thought was a nice touch actually.
Yeah, he shot the aliens. I just don't remember what happened to him. Like, did they paralyze him, knock him out?
No. What it did is it initiated a almost like an Indiana Jones type of situation
where the relic or the device was being held, it set off the booby traps and began to close everything down. So the last
close this little temple up.
Right, and the last alien
He didn't make it.
He didn't make it, but he handed off to like I said, there's the British archaeologist, there's the Luke Perry character, and then there's the priest. And the priest is it's that set in that stereotypical of there is an order of people that are established to protect a particular item.
Yes.
Or protect a particular history. Kind of, I guess, most people would find relates more to the idea of it's almost like the alleged order that protects certain sacred relics in our existence, things like the Templars? the Templars, the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant. There's an entire order of priests in a place in I'll hit a wall on that one.
Basically, this priest is a part of a order that protects whatever was in that building before the aliens decided it's too unsafe, it's too risky. We got to take this thing. We got to vamoose.
Right. Priest Ethiopia, Ark of the Covenant. Yes, there is a place in Ethiopia where it is reputed that the Ark of the Covenant is there. I personally don't feel it's there, and I've done the work, but that's okay.
If the Ark of the Covenant was actually there, you think that they would just destroy that entire place just to get to it.
What I find so fascinating about it, there is a couple of, I'm assuming males, born with a penis, and they have been guarding, watching. It's handed down from generation for hundreds, maybe a couple thousands of years in this building. Where the person guarding it can trace their lineage back to where they say the item originally arrived. So it's that kind of order, brotherhood.
Knights of the Templar, all that stuff.
Knights of the Templars, yes.
So essentially what happens is I do appreciate the fact that these aliens look very peculiar. They don't look like traditional aliens. Like they're not
No, they don't.
They're not slimy. They're not
No.
big-headed gray or green.
They're so
men.
cute.
They're almost like robots.
Yes, they're very mechanical.
They go like 5 miles an hour.
Yes.
They're so friggin' slow. That's why that last guy didn't make it out. So the last alien didn't make it out. He basically tells the priest, "Hey, there's gonna be an issue like 1,000 years or so in the future. You need to take this key and guard it with your life and pass it on to the others of your order."
Yes.
Basically giving the priest
handing down secret knowledge,
like
the Gnostics.
So, the guys, they take their MacGuffin in their big old spaceship.
They don't even show the whole thing.
No, they don't. They show, like, the bottom 25% of it that actually touches down to Earth. And then they go back up into the sky, and the priest is waving the key at them, be like, "I will guard it! I will pass on your job! I will accept this task for you."
It's a great hook.
Oh, yeah, it's a good hook. And, 1,000 or so years in the future, it's like 2,800, which is a gross estimation of what time it is.
Sure.
But it's pretty friggin' far in the future, if I remember correctly.
They go from a camel being tied to a post outside of a pyramid to flying cars.
So it was
but it works.
It's a big jump.
It works. It does work. They go from this bleak, brown, natural desert setting to this post-apocalyptic urban.
This definitely urban.
Very
like flashy. Very flashy. Very.
It works. It really does. It really does.
Yeah, there's like 50,000 flying cars, all in like their own particular lanes in the air, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean there's no chaos. There's
No.
a complete and total succinct order.
Yeah, it's
to
like
it.
a normal society.
Just like a normal society, right?
Except that everything just is like way, way advanced. And what is it? Corbin wakes up or something?
He
I can't remember the exact order of everything in the beginning because it's been a while since I've seen the beginning.
Yeah, he wakes up. And that apartment is that's got to be styled after some of those I've heard of Japanese having
very small apartments
similar to something like that. I mean, this place is a walk-in closet. But it's full. It's got the kitchen and the bathroom and the shower and it's
very functional.
Very functional space.
It doesn't look like one of those rundown apartments where it is a walk-in closet but the ceiling's cracked. There's like a rat living in the wall. I mean, it's not that.
No, and he's
got a cat.
It's a high-rise skyscraper. He is getting lunch, I believe, from a vessel. Yeah,
the Chinese guy. I think definitely Asian dude. He kind of shows up in like a junk style
ship, which is very Hong Kong. Very Hong Kong. So I'm going to assume he's Chinese.
Yes, or at least Chinese descendant.
Yes.
So he basically, the Chinese guy, he says, something's happened to... No, wait, was that later? The point, no, I think this all happened at the same time. It's been a very while since I've seen the beginning.
You only had the one scene, so whatever you were thinking was in there.
No. Well, here's the thing. I remember the order. I remember vaguely the sequence of events after Meet Popsicle, which we'll get to.
That's later.
I'm just telling you. After that scene, I remember a lot in order.
Right.
Basically, at some point, no. We don't get introduced to Corbin. It furthers the conflict. What the priest was being told to guard.
Oh yeah.
It goes to Ian Holmes' character, who is this. He's also a priest of this order with the key. And the priest is trying to talk to the United States president, who apparently you can just walk in that dude's office or something.
He seemed very accessible for the position that he was in.
I don't know. Maybe there's like extended world peace or something. I don't know. There is a lot of world building, but there are still some unanswered questions that I personally would ask, like why is the president this accessible?
And once again, there's the campiness in the movie, and the president is being played by a gentleman by the name of Tiny Lister.
Yep.
L-I-S-T-E-R.
Who he does a good job.
Well,
I thought he did a good job for what he was doing.
For what he was doing, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
He was another one where you just went, what's he doing there?
But he kind of fits.
But he did kind of fit.
So, basically, Ian Holmes' character as the priest, Father Maxwell, I think, is his name.
Was it Maxwell?
I think it's Maxwell, but it's
Ian Holmes. He was the
father. No.
He was Bilbo Baggins in the
Lord of the Rings. Yeah, he's
Bilbo.
No. He's not Bilbo. Yeah, it's Bilbo, but he's not Bilbo.
No, not in that movie, of course.
Vito. Father Vito.
Where
did I get Father Maxwell?
Who knows? He's been in a lot of stuff. He was also the voice of the chef in Ratatouille, which is another one of my favorite films.
Wait, which chef? There was like a bunch. Oh, Skinner?
He was the bad guy.
He was Skinner?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
That was Ian Holmes. Yes, it was. Absolutely.
Okay. Jesus.
One can get too familiar with vegetables, you know. Yes, that was him.
Dang.
He's been in a lot of stuff.
And unfortunately, he passed away.
Wasn't he in... you know what? He's
done a lot of stuff.
I think he was the original android in Alien.
Yes. In the movie Alien, he was the android.
Back in the 70s, which scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
That scared the hell out of everybody. What are you talking about?
He was the android.
So...
Or was it... No.
Yeah, unwrap your headset. No, he was the android. So
Thinking of John Hurt somewhere in there.
no, John Hurt was in Alien. He's the guy that got bleh.
Okay, all right.
Oh,
yeah.
And apparently
yeah,
they didn't tell
yeah.
anyone they
He
were
was
going to
the
do
human.
that. Yeah, he was the human that
Okay,
happened to.
okay,
Yeah, and
okay.
apparently they didn't tell anyone they were going to do that. The John Hurt scene. So those reactions are genuine. Obviously, they told John Hurt because he was doing it, but the whole Kim just convulsing out of nowhere and panicking, and the thing coming out of him, they didn't tell anyone except John Hurt. So those are real reactions, you see.
I get it.
And I'm like, why did you do that?
I'm sure there's some folks that never got over that.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the stuff of nightmares right there.
Ian Holmes.
So he's basically trying to tell the president, "Oh my God, we have to, make contact with these alien beings. They are the only things that can stop this cataclysm, this ball of death that for some reason just hates life and exists."
Yeah, well,
that's kind of one thing they don't really.
It's kind of personification of evil.
True, which I get. I understand personification of evil, but the problem is, I kind of wish they had a little bit more backstory lore to it in the movie, or just in general, where it's like, well, if this is the personification of evil as just this huge giant ball of death, then where did it come from? Was it made? Did it make itself?
Now that you bring it up, there really was no obvious threat other than there was this unknown sphere.
Well, there was Sphinx cat looking people.
Yeah.
Those marauders, and then there's Gary Oldman.
Well, they weren't related to the the Marauders were not related specifically. They were in hire of Gary Oldman.
Yeah, Gary Oldman hired the Marauders because somehow the Ball of Death, which is personified as a character called Mr. Shadow, who, oh God, when we get to that scene, we got to talk about it. But
it's
basically,
a planet.
Yeah, it's an entire planet that somehow talks.
Yeah.
Because it talks to Gary Oldman via the phone.
Mr. Shadow via the phone.
Yes,
that is correct.
A little bit of spoiler in like later, a little bit later than like we're going to talk about.
Does seem a little ludicrous.
Yeah, basically what happens is a giant planet made of evil and death contacts Gary Oldman. Oh God, I forgot the character's name. Gary Oldman. No. It's even better than that. It goes to Gary Oldman's receptionist.
Ring.
And then says, "Hey, can I talk to Gary Oldman's character? This is Mr. Shadow. He'll probably want to talk to me."
Ring.
And the receptionist is like, "Mr. Gary Oldman's character, you have a Mr. Shadow on the line." And I'm like, this is the dumbest stuff.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic because
it was.
It
worked.
Because as soon as Gary Oldman heard the fact that thing was on the phone, he was like, "Oh no!
Oh no!"
And all that stuff. So after trying to warn the president of the United States to get us basically give an escort to the robotic aliens.
Yes.
The Marauders come in, they blow past whatever electronic space border, which in my opinion doesn't make any sense because it's space, but whatever. Star Trek never seemed to have that problem with the Federation, but whatever. I don't know. This ain't Star Trek.
Nope.
Anyway, so the Marauders blast the ship, like completely decimate it. And they eventually find that there was a part of the thing that was originally taken off of Earth, like a part of this MacGuffin that survived, and that they're able to recreate it. So that there's still hope. And then it gets introduced to Corbin Dallas.
Yeah.
I think that's the order of events.
Well, I mean, it's kind of actually, it's almost brilliant. I mean, it's like a double hook.
Oh yeah.
The original hook is a backstory, which hooks you in.
Yeah.
And then the next
it's a follow-up.
Is when whatever device the aliens removed in the original hook, in the original, I don't know, first 5, 10, 15 minutes of the movie, they are trying to transport that device back to Earth to deal with this hurling ball of evil that is heading toward the Earth.
And they get blown up.
It's very interesting.
at some point in the middle of that ship getting blown up and introducing Corbin Dallas, we finally get introduced to Gary Oldman's character, who is looking it back up, and my phone's a little slow.
Zorg.
I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Zorg. Mr. Zorg, line 2, Satan.
Yeah, that's basically, that is literally,
that's pretty much.
That is literally how that scene went.
That's literally how that scene.
Mm-hmm.
You know. He's a badass.
Yeah. Cornelius.
Owns the, Vito Cornelius.
Vito Cornelius, yeah.
Ian Holmes' priest character.
Yeah, I just went to IMDb and stopped looking at Google because sometimes it just.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway,
so Gary Oldman is Zorg.
Mm-hmm.
He is, and we're gonna get into some things here that are currently going on. He's this
what, like a conglomerate runner,
this
or
wealthy industrialist kind.
Yeah, it's a little unclear. I think he owns like I always assumed he was like this person, like a CEO of a huge conglomerate or something like that.
Yes, that's there are, yes.
Yeah, and when we're introduced to Zorg, we're where he's basically walking down a building, or he's like walking down a hallway or an alleyway or somewhere, and some dude just kind of runs up to him, and is like, "Oh, Mr. Zorg, we're like," I think he said that we're like hemorrhaging money, and he said,
says the economy's heating up.
Mm-hmm.
These are some. He's using some terms in this exchange that most people do not understand the ramifications. He is basically saying the economy is moving too fast.
Mm-hmm.
We need to do something to slow it down. And the answer to that is to lay off
1 million
workers. And then the agent comes back and says 500,000 will do. And
Zorg turns around very sinister like and says 1 million.
1 million. So it immediately, for this man, they establish the antagonist in just a couple of sentences. Very, here it is. He has the option to do nothing,
mm-hmm.
which of course we all want. Then he has the option to do something which we don't want, and then he doubles down on the doing something.
Yeah.
So you're like, ooh, he's an evil guy, because he could have got away with affecting less people and less families and ruining less lives. But he said no. He
1
said,
million.
Double it. So it's immediately established that he is the bad dude.
Mm-hmm.
So then he, and he's smoking.
Ooh, and he has a stupid haircut. Ooh. I don't know why Gary Oldman. I don't know why.
It works though.
Yeah, I know it works. I'm just like, I can't believe they got him out of out of his trailer looking like that. Like, how did he not say no? I'm not saying he would have accepted the shaved mohawk. That looks like it had been conditioned. Sure. The plastic helmet. Okay, that's another thing. But you put both in at the same time. It's like, how did he accept those terms and conditions?
I don't know, but he rocked it.
And he rocked it.
Gary Oldman.
Mm-hmm. He's a friggin' chameleon.
It's a force.
Mm-hmm. And then that's when Corbin has lunch with the junk ship, and oh god, I don't think we can go over literally everything.
No,
before I gotta scrammo.
Just to set up the good guy and the bad guy.
Yeah, just set up the good guy and the bad guy.
Yeah.
Corbin, he's kind of down on his luck. Retired military man, used to be like in the special forces, which if you're gonna make a movie, that's literally all the branches.
That's all the backstory of your protagonist.
You just say he's in special forces with like no explanation.
You're gonna need some more body bags.
Yeah. And Bruce Willis is just being Bruce Willis. He gets free lunch because he's also got fired, and he goes out and he's a taxi driver.
Yes.
And he's arguing with his boss, like, dude, come on, I got a couple points left on my license, but he actually has like 5, which, comes later in a gag when he's getting chased, but whatever. And then they cut to the remnant artifact of this thing. The reason why they said that they could recreate it is because this artifact that the robotic aliens took was in actuality like a sort of sarcophagus.
Yes.
With the something they call the ultimate being inside of it.
Yes.
It's not that this person was dead. I think that this person was just in hibernation.
Sure.
I don't remember exactly what the deal was. All we know is this person is now just an arm.
Right.
And they're going to put him in some sort of human reconstruction capsule.
Yeah, it was kind of like the case of emergency break glass. You got you got the thing that you got the fire extinguisher on the other side of this barrier. And that's going to put this fire out, but we need to take this out of here. Mm-hmm. And then they try to bring it back.
Yeah, basically they take a DNA sample from this arm and they're like, you know how people have like a double helix? This thing's got like a 16-tuple helix. It is biologically perfect. Like that's some of what the scientist is talking about. It is biologically perfect.
It's called a sextillion. That's 23, then a comma, and then 16 zeros.
Yep. So they put the arm in there and they turn the machine on, which is actually pretty cool and trippy, and that would basically render medical science useless if it was made commercially available.
Oh, absolutely.
Just a forewarning.
Right.
And they finally take the shields off because they initially put the shields on to calibrate light sensitive tissues, like I guess your eyes.
Oh, I mean that one sequence where the arm, the DNA, they are able to create a being from that tissue.
Yeah.
That's it's very well done.
Mm-hmm.
It's right in the very beginning of when CGI started to
start looking okay.
Start quote unquote start looking okay.
And even then, it still doesn't look that great.
It doesn't look that great, but it works.
I guess it just depends. But anyway,
but you know what you're involved in. You know that. There's a little bit of show. There's a little bit of comedy. There's a little bit of camp. So it does not look bad. It's simple, elegant, and it works.
Oh yeah. So then they take the blast shields off, and this ultimate being is actually a whammon.
A whammon. My God.
Oh my Lord. And that's Lilu, who, upon being revived is genuinely freaking out and not speaking English because this is a person that doesn't know English. That was actually one of the primary complaints I heard was, oh, this person, this character is like not speaking English. They're speaking this made up language. It's called the director and Mila, and I think some sort of linguist, got together and made up this divine...
Oh, I'm sure they did.
This divine language.
Yes.
That only the three of them spoke. Like, the director legitimately could speak and understand what Miss Mila was saying. And somewhere on the internet, there is someone who has figured out how to understand this divine language that she's speaking, and there is a transcript somewhere on the internet that it basically explains what she's saying when she's not talking in English.
Right.
When she just busts out and she's, trapped in this capsule and she's like, there's someone had made a transcript of what she's actually saying, which more likely is like, hey, where am I? Where are these guys? I think I'm supposed to be. This is not where I'm supposed to be. Wasn't I blown up?
Where's my pants?
Yeah, where's my pants? It's probably stuff like that, and she breaks out because she's in an unfamiliar place.
What's such an interesting dynamic about that is that to highlight this character, there's this standard, very heavy-handed male perspective of ultimate being a woman.
Yeah,
how what? It's a surprise to everybody. This is not a guy. It's not a warrior. It's a woman. It's a vulnerable, transparent woman.
Who technically is a warrior.
Technically is the most dangerous person in the room, but
I think the only person that wasn't shocked was the scientist.
probably.
But that's probably because he understood what genetics were, and he's like, hey, wait a minute.
I mean, who knows how it's going to turn out?
Yeah.
You can't have any predisposition. I mean, it could have been a coyote, you know.
Yeah.
Or
it could have been another alien.
Could have been a walrus.
Yeah. So she breaks out because, well, yes, and she travels through the vents and she eventually gets outside, and she is just shocked because she's in the future, because I guess she is not used to this.
I guess. Well, you know, the representation of her character originally is discovered in a desert in an old pyramid in Egypt. So you're talking about her
possibly hundreds of years of future
placed in that position. So 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, a millennia, an eon, and now all of a sudden she's thrust into this hardcore urban future.
Yeah, that's another thing. They don't really elaborate on her origin specifically. Like, you know, if she went off with the aliens,
which
how
works.
comes? Yeah, which is fine. It's just the whole thing of if she was with those aliens, hypothetically, if she was with those aliens, how come she's not used to this? Is she even native to Earth?
Right.
Or does she just so happen to resemble a human being? Because you know, some species, like again in Star Trek, they just so happen to resemble human beings. But that's probably just because of low budget. But whatever, you work with what you got.
Yeah.
And like, is she like, you know, who you know, her whole purpose is to defeat this giant ball of death. And I'm just always curious, like, where did the ball of death come from? Where did she come from? What is her origins? Which they don't really elaborate on.
Yeah, and the story's better if you don't include that
True.
backstory.
I'm just curious personally.
Sure.
She jumps off the building when the cops and their flying cars are like, hey, stop. And she just jumps because, again, she doesn't speak English.
Well, there's the other thing. There is, you know, that's a very interesting point. The leap. It's a leap of faith. It's the symbolism in this particular scene is very large. The leap of faith
is a huge trope.
It's a huge trope, and also there is an element of everything. I'm walking the path that everything good. Okay. So this is going to work out. That whole leap of faith.
I'm walking the path I was meant to.
Right. I'm walking the path I was meant to. I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. The only option here is to leap off the side of a building.
And everything will work out.
And
technically that is true because she crashes right into Corbin Dallas's taxi.
Right. That's an oversimplification of the whole, you know,
the leap of faith.
The leap of faith, doing what you need to do to not. There's a lot of people that those types of presentations will halt them. So instead of turning around and giving up, she leaps off the side of a building and right into Corbin Dallas's taxi. So there's something larger there than just a line between one story situation and another story situation. There's an entire dynamic in all of our existence, movies, books, everything. People following the spirit.
Yeah,
so
all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a police chase. You know, Corbin decides to have pity on this vaguely attractive woman who cannot speak English, who manages to say, please help, because she read it on a poster inside his cab. He eventually gets the car back to the shop. He gets back to his hotel, I believe, and I'm trying to remember the order of sequence. Oh no. He doesn't get back to his apartment. He gets her over to Cornelius because she somehow knows him.
Right.
Or she understood
Vito
where
Cornelius.
Yeah, she somehow knew.
So he looks up the name she mentions to him, and he finds the priest.
Yeah.
And before we get into that, I would just like to say that I really enjoyed the police chase.
Mm-hmm.
The McDonald's train, I thought, was a wonderful, wonderful part.
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine McDonald's 1,000 years from now. Symbol, and there was this. He like hit a
like a semi truck,
like a truck or a train full of
McDonald's food,
McDonald's products, and there's just this rain of fries, little hamburger patties and buns and fries. Yeah, it was quite interesting. Quite
it was good. Yeah, it was a good police chase.
Yes.
And they get him back to the priest, and Corbin's like, hey, she asked for you, and Cornelius realizes, oh, she's the fifth element. And he's like, right. What? The fifth element?
It's a woman. Yeah.
Yes.
Once again. I don't know why that's a big plot device, but apparently it is.
It's still technically a big plot device, although I would argue it's misconstrued for bad reasons nowadays.
Yes.
But whatever.
True.
Maybe didn't have good intentions regardless. So basically, Cornelius he basically accommodates Miss Fifth Element.
Yes.
Since she is now the most important being on the face of the universe at this particular moment in time.
And throws Corbin Dallas out.
Yeah, he basically throws him out after Corbin attempted to kiss her while she was sleeping.
Sure.
Because necessary. She was kind of out of it and, hungry, I guess, and, she was just out of it. And they just get to talking, Cornelius and the Fifth Element lady. And there's also like a Lilu. And there's like another priest dude there too, who's like a priest in training or something.
Yes.
I don't remember his name.
I don't either. He was an apprentice.
Yeah, he was like the apprentice. Let's see. Corbin goes back to his apartment. There's a meeting between Zorg and the Marauders, who again their species name escapes me. And Zorg
Mangalores.
is Mangalores.
Yes.
Mangalores.
Yes, the smelly Marauders.
Ah. So essentially, Zorg and the Mangalores there was apparently an established deal. The Mangalores would get these stones representing the four known elements, things that are not what Lilu is. And Zorg would give these guys these high-tech weaponry guns. And the scene where he shows off the guns is just friggin' trippy.
It's very trippy.
It's like it's like a net thrower, a flamethrower, an ice thrower, different like missiles, and it's like I think there was like a taser.
Right. I mean, you're introduced to this extreme device of destruction.
Yeah, it does your taxes.
But it's almost
babysit your kids.
Funny.
Yeah,
it's funny, and then to watch the Mangalores playing around with it toward the end of the scene. I thought that
it is definitely
hilarious.
It is definitely the definition of overkill.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening? Is the deal was 4 crates of these high-tech weapons for 4 stones. A stone for a crate of weapons.
Correct.
So the Marauders, Mangalores, there's like, hey, we got this box when we blew that ship up.
Right.
Here, you might, this probably got what you in it. Apparently no one thought to check.
Yeah, that's a big plot hole, but anyway.
No. Here's the thing. It just shows how incompetent these Marauders are because they didn't check. They just found a plot. Because they do it later in the movie.
That's what makes them dumb.
Yeah, because they just don't check. They just, they're killing machines. They're not,
You're not thinkers.
They're not thinkers.
Right.
Because they do it again later in the movie.
That is true.
They just find this box. They don't even open it, and they go, "I found them.
We found it."
And it's not the stones.
Right.
So he opens the box up, and there's nothing in it. Because apparently the species of alien, these robotic species of alien that was keeping her, they were like, hey, I don't think we should keep the stones and this fifth element together on the same ship. We should probably give these stones to somebody else, someone that we can trust. And now the story is we got to go find this person carrying the stones, and then go back to Earth, put them together, and bada boom, you solve the plot.
Right.
Gary Oldman Zurg, he kind of pitches a fit because obviously these guys just blew up the friggin' ship. Didn't check for the stones.
Nope.
Brought him an empty box. So he basically just wastes his time showing off all this high-tech weaponry. And
I'm surrounded by incompetence.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of that attitude.
Yeah. After being threatened for a bit, Zorg eventually relents and goes, hey, I'll give you one box.
For the cause.
For the cause.
Yeah.
And at first you're like, this guy is way too calculating to just let his stuff go for like
that is
nothing.
True.
However, there is a small payoff for that.
Yeah.
Because, once the scene starts to end, Zurg is outside and it's the assistant again. He's like, the assistant's going like, hey, you think it's a good idea to let those, you threatening those guys and you just give them one of those high-tech death machine guns? And Gary Oldman's like, well, that is a good question, except I am way smarter than they are, because if they were actual warriors, they would have asked about the big old shiny red button at the bottom of the trigger. On the bottom half of the gun.
Right.
It cuts back inside this warehouse where it's just these Mangalores playing with the guns, like you said.
Literally
playing with
like
them.
at a kid's birthday party.
Yeah,
they're playing around with these agents of death.
Yeah, they're like shooting nets at each other. They're just having fun.
Right.
And then one of them off to the side, he kind of goes, I guess he's a little bit in the middle of the room, if I remember correctly. He just kind of, he like looks at the bottom of the gun to the red button.
He's the only one that notices the red button.
Yeah, that Zurg had mentioned, and he's like, and he presses it, and the whole building blows up.
It is, and then Oldman's character Zorg is standing there.
Doesn't even look.
Now, he's an evil dude. You know how I know? Because he's smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
And
the building blows up. Zurg does not look at it.
And it is one of the most epic cigarette smoking exhalations of smoke you will ever see in
guys
media.
Don't look at explosions.
Dude, he's got his back to it.
Yeah.
Got his back to it, and he's exhaling. He delivers the line, and not only does he exhale the smoke, he exhales it through his nose. Ooh, he's a badass.
Ooh.
And it's a good shot. It's a good shot.
Oh yeah, it's a really good shot. What?
Want to halt?
Yeah, this is gonna have to be a part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, because here's the thing. We could talk about this for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But
part 1 and part 2.
Part 1 and part 2. Well, actually, this might
Absolutely.
be a 3-parter because we're not even in the second act.
No, we're not even in the second act.
We haven't even gotten half.
It's a great movie.
We haven't even gotten halfway
Freaking
into.
Pull it up and see it. I challenge anyone to watch The Fifth Element and not for the very first time.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. Blah blah blah. I heard it's good. I heard it's bad. I heard it's crap. I challenge anyone to watch The Fifth Element and say that was not worth, I don't know,
an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. You spent an hour and a half, on the toilet. Absolutely.
So yeah, we're gonna unfortunately have to run out of time. We both have things to do. I unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but I gotta catch a D&D, and probably should have left about 30 minutes ago, but that's okay.
Yeah,
This is worth it. All right, well,
Fifth Element, part one.
Yeah, part one of the review of Fifth Element. You want to do this every fifth episode, or you know what? We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, sure.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, I suppose.
Woo!
I was your host, Bel-E.
She was, and I was your co-host, Scratch.
And we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Bye.
Giggity.